Namaskar everyone and welcome to the Gita Satsang. Let us start with a prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let us chant the shlokas, the prayers. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramartanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतः क्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुग्म व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. So offering our prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us go to our topic for today. Before we start, today is the auspicious occasion of Sri Ramanavami. So best wishes to all of you, and let us pray that Sri Rama's blessings will be on us always and help us to grow in our sadhana. So let us continue from where we left off. Today we are taking up the 26th shloka of the 7th chapter. So in this, Krishna is telling Arjuna, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. So he says, O Arjuna, I know all beings which have been in the past, those beings who are now there in the present, and those who are yet to come, but no one knows me. So here the Acharyas explain that it appears as though there is one question in the mind of Arjuna, an unspoken question which Krishna is answering. So what is that question? It is as if Arjuna is asking that already previously Krishna has told that people are not able to understand my true nature. So Arjuna wants to know that is it just now that this is happening, or has it always been like this, that people cannot understand the true nature of the Lord? And answering that shloka, Krishna is replying here. Answering that doubt, Krishna is replying in this shloka. Just 1 minute, please. I'm sorry about that. So, it is as if Krishna has replied in this shloka. The Lord, by his nature, we know that one of the names used for the Lord is Ananta. So he is beyond the limit of time, place, and object, right? So with respect to time, what do we mean by saying he is beyond the limits of time? What we mean is that Krishna knows what happened in the past, he knows what is going on in the present, and he knows what will happen in the future also. Not just time, he knows everything about all the chit and achit in this universe. But nobody is able to know him. There is an example. Just 1 minute. So, Krishna is the one who knows what happened in the past, he knows what is happening in the present, and he knows what will happen in the future also. And not just about time, he knows about all the persons or objects. But what Krishna is trying to say here is, because of this nature of mine, because I am Sarvagnya, I know everything about everyone. But people are not able to recognize me. And it is not just now, it is at all times. One minute. I'm not sure whether this was covered already in the previous satsang. No, it was not covered. Yeah, I don't know why. I think some things have got repeated or. Okay, we'll see. So, Krishna knows um, everything, but nobody is able to know about him. Now, here the Acharyas give the example that if there is a child who is asleep, and let us say that there is some ant or some insects which come near that child, then that mother can see that, and she protects that child by pushing away that insect or worm or whatever it may be. To do that, she does not wake up the child and tell that, see, this has come near you, but I pushed it away, so you can sleep peacefully. She does not say anything to the child. She just does whatever has to be done to protect that child. In the same way, why does she do that? Because it is her duty. She feels that out of her love. Now, if a worldly mother can have so much love towards us, then just imagine the condition that the Lord, Krishna himself, he is like the eternal mother and father, right? From so many janmas, he's been protecting us. If today we are sitting here and listening to his glories, we are talking about him, then that means that how much he has protected us. So he knows everything about each one of us, and that is the reality. So that is what he is telling, that I know, but no one knows me. I know everything about everybody, but no one knows about me. So it is not just now, it is at all points of time. In the past, also, people didn't understand my true nature. Right now, also, nobody is understanding my true nature. And in the future, also, there'll be many people who will not ever understand my true nature. But I know everything about everybody. Now, we don't realize that Krishna is caring for us in this manner, and therefore we go to the Devatas for all the benefits. We discussed this in our previous satsangs. We go to the Devatas seeking all those benefits from them, right? And we don't understand that Krishna is there for us. He is the one who's always been with us. If you remember, in the 19th shloka, we said how Krishna told that Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. He says it's very rare that there is somebody, some rare jnani who understands that Vasudeva is everything for me. The one who declares that I want nothing in this world except Vasudeva. So only such a jnani understands the true nature of the Lord. So here, when Krishna is saying that nobody understands me, although I understand everything about them, Krishna means that except for the jnani, no one understands me. So, why he is telling this? Again, he wants to convey to us how great is the jnani, how much value the Lord has for the jnani. Because nobody else is able to understand the Lord, only the jnani seeks the Lord, understanding his true nature and wanting nothing from him except the Lord himself. So, that is why Krishna is telling again and again that nobody understands me except this jnani. That is what he implies here. Okay, now we will move on to the 27th shloka. So here he continues and says, Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. He says, in this prapancha, in this world, there is always a delusion which comes because of the pair of opposites. There is dvandva. There are two opposing things which are there. And why these two opposing things come? Because of either our desire for something or our aversion, our hatred for some things. So, because of all this, as soon as we are born, we are covered by this delusion. This avarana covers us. And therefore, we are not able to understand the true nature of the Lord. Now, if we want to understand a little more about this, we have to take into account whatever Purva Janmas we have been through. In that, we have done Papa and Punya. So, we have done good and bad. We have done actions which are good and bad. And because of that, we have accumulated Papa and Punya in our account. Now, this Papa Punya, which is there in our account, and all those previous tendencies that we had in the past Janmas, that is responsible for this thing called as Vasana. And that Vasana is what manifests in the form of likes and dislikes. And this keeps repeating in every birth. It may change from one birth to the other. Generally, it is because of all these previous accounts that we have certain likes and dislikes. Like sometimes in our life, let us say I had horrifying experience with some particular item or in a particular place, then I will develop a dislike for that. If I had a good experience with something, I will develop a liking for that. Now, that is true in many cases, no doubt, but still, there are certain things for which we have an unexplainable liking or a very strong hatred without any reason. It may be the first time that we've been to that place, it may be the first time we've seen some person, and yet that particular place or that person or that activity can set off very severe reaction that either we really like it and we feel, oh, we are born for this, or we dislike it totally and we feel this is something I never want to do in my life, right? So that is because of all the papa and punya which is there in our previous account. So because of that, what happens now, we have strong likes and dislikes. Because we have likes and dislikes, if we get what we like, we feel happy. If we don't get what we like, we feel sad, we feel unhappy. Then, because of this, we keep making efforts in that direction. Like, if we understand that, okay, this is what I like, then what I try to do, I always try to attain that, or I try to keep getting that. I will do whatever it requires to be able to reach that thing which I like. Suppose there is something that I don't like, then I will do whatever possible to run away from that. I'll do whatever I can to avoid that, right? So when I keep doing actions like this, trying to attain something or trying to run away from something, then those actions, because of those actions, further I will accumulate papa and punya. That keeps repeating in that every birth. So in this birth I accumulated papa punya. Because of that, my vasanas in the next janma are decided. There again, I do certain things that causes more accumulation of papa and punya. So like this, all these things keep coming with us from one birth to another. It is told in the Srimad Bhagavatam also that at the time when the baby is in the womb of the mother, actually it's as if the baby gets a recollection. It is able to remember what all it has done in all its past janmas. And at that point, it remembers all the dukkha it had to undergo on this earth. And it prays to the Lord, saying that, please give me mukti. Please give me liberation. I don't want to get back into this samsara and get caught up in all these things. So, with that remembrance, every baby is there inside the womb of its mother. And yet, at the time when it is being born, after its birth, it immediately forgets all that and again gets caught up into the ways of this world. It gets caught up in samsara. Why is that happening? Because it is told that there is this entity called as the Shatavayu. As the baby is coming out of the womb of the mother, once it enters into this world, that Shatavayu envelops the baby. And that enveloping of the Shatavayu is like casting the veil of delusion. It is like an avarana which comes over that baby. And because of that veil of ignorance which has come on, the baby loses the jnana which it had when it was in the mother's womb. So until the point that the baby is born, it has all the jnana and it doesn't want to be born again. But as soon as it is born, it is enveloped by the Shatavayu, and because of that, it gets covered by the veil of delusion. And due to that delusion, which has arisen because of what? Because of the likes and dislikes. And therefore, that baby is unable to understand the true nature of the Lord. Now, we know that there was this very famous Alvar called Nammalvar. The other name for this Nammalvar is Shatakopan. So it is told that when he was born, as soon as he was born, normally when children are born, when baby is born, it will immediately start to cry. It will open its eyes. It will blink its eyes. It will start crying for food, right? And as it grows, it will get attached with all the objects in this world. But this Nammalvar, when this baby was born, it did not cry, he did not open his eyes, he did not eat anything, he did not drink anything, he did not move at all. He was just lying there. He was alive and alert, but he was not doing any of the activities that a child is normally supposed to do as soon as it is born. That shows the detachment that he had. And it is said that if somebody is enveloped by the Shatavayu, they cannot be like this. The minute the Shatavayu envelopes a person, they will start doing all the things that a normal baby in this world does. But this baby, this who later became Nammalvar, he did not do all these things, and therefore he is called as Shatakopan. Kopa means to be angry against, to turn away from, right? To resist. And what did he resist? This Shatavayu. And therefore he is called as Shatakopan, the one who could resist the influence of the Shatavayu. So he was such a great soul that he was able to resist the force of these worldly delusions. And that is why even today in the Vaishnava temples, if you notice, after the Archana is done, when they give you Mangalarti, then after that, they place an object on your head which is meant to be a blessing of the Lord's divine feet. That, what they are placing on your head, is called as the Shatari. And this Shatari is nothing other than the, it is supposed to represent Swami Shatakopan. It is like as if God gave once a boon to this Nammalvar, that whoever is singing your praises, whoever is come into contact with you, that person, I am guaranteeing that they will get mukti. I will take care of them, like that. And then the Acharyas, the Alvars all thought that how is it possible? Only those who lived in the time of Nammalvar would have been able to have his presence there. As a mark of that everybody should come into contact with the grace of this Shatakopan. That object, the Shatari, is placed near the Lord's feet because Nammalvar considered himself a servant of the Lord. So that Shatari, which is kept near the feet of the Lord, that is placed on the head of all the devotees in order to sanctify them, to make them pure, to make sure that they are recipients of the grace of the Lord. That is why we have this Shatari concept, and every time when we go to the Vishnu temples, that Shatari is placed on our forehead to bless us with the grace of the Lord. Now, moving on to the 28th shloka, Krishna tells Arjuna, Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandvamoha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrataha. So he's saying, so far he's been telling that I know everybody, but nobody knows me. Then he said that because of the delusion, because of all the dvandva, these pairs of opposites, people are caught up in likes and dislikes, and therefore they are deluded and they are not able to see me. Then what is the solution to that? That is what he is explaining to this to Arjuna in this 28th shloka. He says, however, the doers of virtuous deeds, those who do virtuous deeds, who are these people? The ones whose sins have ceased, whose sins have been destroyed. Those are the people are freed. They are freed from the delusion of this dvandva. And such people only are able to worship me, and they are dridha in their vrata. They are steadfast in their determination. Now, if we have papas and punyas, then both papa and punya bind us to this world. We get shackled to this world. We are continuing to be fallen in this samsara because we are bound by our papa and punya karmas, whatever we have accumulated over so many births. When consciously we make a decision that we are going to follow the path of dharma and we are going to give up doing all that which is adharma, what happens? Our stock of punya starts increasing. As our punya goes on increasing, it helps to wipe out all the papas which have come with us from so many janmas. So, if we keep doing the right activities, if we keep following the path of dharma and keep doing punya karmas, our papas eventually will get wiped out. Such people who have done so much good deeds that their papas have been completely eliminated, they get freedom from the delusion which is called by all these dvandvas. Such a person who is free from this delusion, only such a person, now his papa has increased very greatly. It has completely destroyed, his punya has increased very greatly and it has completely destroyed all his papas. And only such a person, because he is now free from the avarana, because he is free from his ignorance, and he has attained jnana, such a person is able to comprehend, is able to understand the greatness of the Lord. He can understand that the Lord only is the Supreme One. I don't need to go to any other Devata. Sriman Narayana himself is the Supreme Lord. He is the one whom I have to seek. And such a person is the one whom the Lord has been calling as a Jnani. This Jnani is the one who is able to worship Krishna with a steadfast determination. Whatever happens in his life, he does not give up worship of Krishna. Whatever comes in his way, whether it is good or bad, he accepts that as the will of Krishna. And his only outlook is, in all situations, to keep on praying and worshipping to Krishna. Such a person is the Jnani. And how does someone get to this state of being a Jnani? By constantly sticking to the path of Dharma. So, today, as we are celebrating Sri Ramanavami, let us remember this message that we have to stay on the path of Dharma so that our punyas increase, so that our papas get wiped out. How is that related to this Rama Avatara? We all say that Rama is called as Maryada Purushottama. What do we mean by that? We mean that he was the Uttama Purusha. He showed us by always staying within the Maryada, within the limits of what Dharma says. He has shown us the ideal path to be followed, right? And if we keep following that path as he has taught us, then our bhakti will become steady and we will also qualify to go to the stage where we will be known as jnanis. So that is what we have to understand. If we also connect this with the concept of jnana and ajnana, then we can also understand that there are relations between this and the message of the Ramayana. I think I've talked about this in some previous satsanga during our Ramayana satsanga. But if you remember that, then just we will see it once more. That it was there in the video which I sent today also. We have talked about this before in our Ramayana satsang. That we said that this Ramayana has a deeper meaning. It is actually indicating the journey of the soul to the Lord. Rama represents Paramatma. Sita has taken on the role of a Jivatma. So when Sita is kidnapped by Ravana, that Ravana is nothing other than the veil of ignorance, avidya and ahankara that has overcome the Jivatma. So when we say Ravana kidnaps Sita, what we mean is that avidya has covered the jnana of the Jivatma. So she's sitting there in the Ashokavana. She's been taken across this samsara sagara. She's there, far, far away from Rama. The Paramatma is separated from the Jivatma, and the Jivatma is lost and all alone. At that time, the Paramatma does not let go of the Jivatma. No matter how difficult it may be, the Paramatma makes arrangements for that Jivatma to be coming back to him. And what does Rama do? He gives his ring to Hanuman and sends him in search of Sita. The Paramatma sends the Guru, sends the Acharya to connect with us. And once Hanuman shows that ring to Sita, and then everything else falls in place. Similarly, once we have an Acharya in our life, then that Acharya will connect us back to the Lord. So it's not as if Lord is sitting somewhere in Sri Vaikuntha and he is least bothered what happens to us. It is up to us that when we find an Acharya giving us some, jnana, we have to accept that, we have to adopt that in our life, and we have to take whatever steps are required to reach back to the Divine Lord. So, when Hanuman comes and he tells Sita that right now, this very moment, I will take you myself to unite with Rama. You sit on my back and I will carry you. she gives a lot of excuses, right? She does not accept that. First, she says, how can I come along with you? You will be flying and I may fall off when you're flying at high speed. Then she says, what if the Rakshasas chase you and then you are busy fighting with them? And when you are fighting with them, then how you can take care of me? I will fall off. Then further she says, you are Parapurusha. How can I touch you? How can I sit on your back and come? Finally, after Hanuman has given counters for all these reasons that she is giving, she says that it is not my role to be taking any steps on my own for coming back and getting back to Rama. What will people say? Everybody will say that one Rakshasa called Ravana, he came and he took Sita from here to Lanka. And then there was a monkey who came to Lanka and took Sita back to Rama. People will laugh and say, what did Rama do? I don't want that to happen. Rama himself has to protect me. Secondly, she says that by my own tapas, by my own, pativratya, I have the power, I have the tapobala. I can destroy Ravana and everybody else with just a look. But I'm not doing that. Why? Because that is not my role. So, what is it that she's trying to tell us? Many times we think that we are independent, we are swatantra, we will do everything for ourselves, we will take steps to attain moksha. But the Acharyas explain that just like Sita refused to take any steps, she said, my role is to wait for my Swami to come and claim me. Like that, it is for us. We should, of course, no doubt make efforts in our sadhana, but we should not believe that by our efforts we are going to reach the Lord. It is by the grace of the Lord that we are accepted, we reach Him finally. So we must no doubt make efforts for our sadhana, but we must do whatever we are doing with the idea that the Lord is here. He is the one who is going to decide when to uplift me, and all I want is His grace. And definitely the Lord will come. He will send an acharya to guide us, and He will make sure that we reach Him ultimately. It is for us to wait with patience, to keep doing whatever we can do, to spend all our time possible other than our other responsibilities, to spend every moment as much as possible thinking of the Lord, remembering His glories, singing His nama, praying to Him, begging Him for forgiveness for all our sins, and praying that He should guide us to always follow the path of Dharma. So, on this occasion of Sri Ramanavami, let us pray that Sri Rama, Sita, and the entire Parivara will bless us to be able to follow all these things that we are learning in our satsangas. With that, we will stop our topic for today and we will continue next week. Right now, let us offer Kritagnyata, gratitude, at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start and join this satsang. And let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Namaskar. By the way, that video that I sent was my first attempt at using some AI tools to create a video. So please, after you watch that, do send your feedback about what you felt and whether you have any suggestions for improvement. There were some 2-3 people who said that everything is good, but that voice, if it had been yours, it would have been better. But that I have to still learn that part of using that option. So until then, let me see. I will hopefully be able to do that also soon. Thank you, everybody, and we'll meet again next Friday. Namaskar.